How's it going, guys? Mike here on the Tressa's Collectibles channel, here at Anaheim Regionals with Randall, aka Shizukatz, on our left, and our friend Osiel on the right, who both piloted a variant of Attack on Titan for this Regionals, Pan's Choice with the level 2 Zeke and the level 3 Aaron Titan. So Randall was the one that first came up with this concept, and then our group worked on it, and so they both felt pretty confident bringing this particular build into Regionals. So Randall, why don't you just tell us about your build?
Sure. So the idea more or less started with 3 specific cards in particular, which was the 2-1 Cart Titan, the 1-0 Connie, and the level 0 Porco. With the idea that these are all very disruptive cards, obviously with these two being bottom deck bombs and Connie being anti-encore, it's just a very overall disruptive strategy. But the colors were kind of the harder thing to fit, as with these blue cards, it kind of shoehorns you into an Eldian strategy, so you can't go like a core deck or anything like that. Basically, the deck sort of just started as I wanted to run the level 3 Aaron Titan as my finisher, because it's just a very simple, like low maintenance finisher to use. You just kind of slam it on the board, play the climax, and you just discard a card and you just kind of go. Very cheap, very easy to use. And then from there, I just kind of had to figure out how to incorporate the blue. Originally, I was on the Reiner level 1 on like very early builds, but then I quickly realized that Reiner kind of sucks. So
yeah.
Going into the Zeke, actually just kind of everything just kind of came together because I was looking for ways to interact with the 1-1 blue Nino that cannot be reversed by cost zeros, and the Zeke just kind of fit the bill perfectly. And from there, I just kind of built a deck, and everything just kind of seemed to work out. I showed Osiel like a prototype of the deck. That was when I was still running like the Dot Pixis level 0 though. Yeah. So that came out pretty quickly. And unlike Hung and Danny, who are 2 of our other friends, they more or less based their list off of mine and then made like a couple small changes. But because Osiel's first exposure to the deck was he just kind of thumbed through it and it wasn't sorted, his has a lot more deviations compared to mine.
I guess I can go through my list and my thoughts. So basically, initially, when the set first dropped, I was interested in the Zeke's climax combo because it reminded me of Gil Thunder.
From 7 Deadly Sins.
From 7 Deadly Sins. So like I really enjoyed playing a level 2 early play plus in combo, especially in the meta where we're gonna see a lot of Nino 1-1s that can be reversed by cost 0. So like this is like a very natural answer to those cards. So like that felt like really nice. But then I had like issues with my initial draft because I was only working with the newest set. I was only working with the AOT final season. So like once I started playing around with the set, I played initially I was like after the initial release of the final season set, I was playing Door level 1 with Mikasa, which is on attack top tick 4 add. And so in that deck, it felt pretty good, but I was kind of struggling in the Quince matchup. So because of that, I really wanted to play something. I wanted to play AOT because of Armin being able to give hexproof is like really important because you're going to see a lot of Quince. And then Quince and Hololive, and the giving hexproof denies against the minus soul counter and then the rest counters. Also Mushoku if they choose to present their rest counter. So that's why I really wanted to play this card. So because of the matchup being bad with the Door, I swapped back to Zeke, seeing how Randall was believing in it. So I was like, okay, I should go back to this. And then I was a big fan of the level 1 anti-change counter because like not a lot of sets have access to this, and it catches a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, and we see both lists running 2 copies of the anti-change, so really prioritizing just finding it anytime you want it.
Yeah, like especially like one is like you definitely want to scare your opponent of having it. So like I always want 2 to never. So that basically on the first trend of climax combo, I can always search one out. So like and generally have access to it.
Yeah. At one point, I was on 1 anti-change and 1 Leafa counter, and then if I saw this in my opening hand, it's like, God, I want to discard it, but at the same time, I don't want to discard it. So I felt like running the second copy was ultimately the better choice, as it just gives you better playability in your like opening hands, while still having the opportunity to grab it in the matchups where you need it.
I think the biggest distinction between our decks would be Historia Historia and then the what's it called, the Zeke Mill Runner.
Yeah, compared to Randall's, and Randall is running the big change is the level 0 John in Randall's list,
Yeah,
right?
the John and the Art.
And the Arters.
So the John that we mentioned earlier, so he's a 3/5 if you have 2 or less stock, and then when he reverses a battle opponent during either player's turn, you can pop one of your opponent's level 0s in the front row as long as you have another character. And so 3/5 body, already very solid. Sometimes you will be able to snipe things that have like a cost that requires a card to go to memory, or you can snipe like a pseudo encore, like a pay 1 pseudo encore. Those just get blasted off the board, and I did that a couple times today. There was actually one time where my opponent crashed their bomb into it, and then I popped their other attacker. So like. Sometimes that just happens. But, while on your end, you're running the Zeke runner.
Yeah, the Zeke Runner. Yeah, that was my secondary plussing level 0 of choice. Just because I think the Jean is especially potent with Historia, because like in my door level 1 variant, I was running 4 Historia, 4 Jean, because basically Historia is a very powerful utility card, helping you like know your top checks and able to hand filter. It's like really powerful, and so I figured like I really wanted to include no less than 3. The problem in this deck is that you don't need red. Like color requirement is very real, especially at 1. You really want both blue and yellow.
Yeah, because you're playing very heavy yellow as your secondary attackers, especially in the correct matchups, right? The level 1 Connie in particular, being a very good meta card right now.
Yeah. So one notable card between our lists that Osiel chose not to run is the Arter level 0, which is a front 500, and then you can rest 2 characters to give on reverse blind stock. And so one really big line that I went into a lot in like all my games, like literally every single game, it pops up every time, is so you would brainstorm, and then that means that the Armin is rested, and then with the Arter you rest him plus a Porco. Like a Porco in the front row, and then you give the on reverse blind stock to like one of your attackers, and then you pop the Porco, so it allows you to like pay out a stock, and then get it back later with the on reverse blind stock. And so that was a really nice way of keeping my stock clean. And then the 500 power is like just pretty nice too. It makes Zeke 7,500 on defense. It doesn't do as much for like the other level 1 attackers, but the 500 power for the Zeke specifically was pretty good. And then in relation to the Historia, I went with 2 copies of the Aaron Drop Search and the 1 copy of the Aaron Titan. This was basically more for like the power buff more than anything, because it gives like assignable drop assassin. And then the Aaron Drop Search, I just felt that I wanted ways to more securely make sure that I always have 5 attackers or 5 playable cards to go with the Zeke in order to ensure that I could meet the condition.
Yeah, basically the big difference is like because this is like I really want like costless options, so I wouldn't feel the need to run the Archer because
because this is costed, and then like Arter is like kind of more warranted for like me running more costed abilities. Right?
It's also because like in very awkward hands, the Archer really needs other pieces, whereas the Historia is the worst swing, whereas like he wants to be parked in the background. So that's why I prefer this, just because of really like awkward situations where you really need the hand fix. And so it kind of complements like how you run 3 of the summon, like the ones that are summoned. Because I run 2, so like basically this is like my substitute for that as well.
Yeah, so like that's as far as the level 1 line goes, like I do run 3 copies of the level 1 peak that Osiel only runs 2 of, but like the justification here is that I want to go into like the peak with the Porco line, where like I can use peak to summon Porco from waiting room with her effect, where you discard a card, summon a 0, and then I can go into like the Arter lines that I was talking about earlier. Whereas you're not as like dependent on that line, so you just like that.
I'm more dependent on brainstorms, but like I have the benefit of going basically she mills 1, and then it gets the top check, and then the Zeke will also be pseudo mill 1 with the marker. So I'm basically getting very often brainstorm 6. Which is like pretty good. That's why I prioritize having 4 brainstorms. I also prioritize 4 of the 2-1 because there's a lot of times where, especially in Mulligan, I would want to Mulligan away the Zeke, so it's a soul trigger for the choice. So if I trigger choice, I can either add it to hand or put it to stock. So either maximize plussing. And then also another difference between our list is the early plays, or the early play Aaron being a 3 of, and me being up 1 of these 2. Basically, it's also to ensure that the Historia hits 3s a lot more consistency, which like allows me to get like whichever of the level 3s I need, which is like a lot of the time it's either Armin or the comics combo. There's a lot of scenarios where like, especially if I go in after a combo of 2-1 and I vaguely remember the deck, like the cards I will always keep my eye out are the level 3s, because basically all the level 3s allow me to salvage another level 3 with Astoria. And it's just like, yeah, they're like, at no point throughout the game will I not be playing this card. Like every game today, for sure, I played at least Historia twice. Like actually, like heavily towards how I played the deck. Historia like facilitates the deck.
Yeah, so I think looking at these two lists, the biggest difference really comes from the level 0 utility options, and that really goes to reflect each player's individual play preferences, and then just that also, like you said, the 4 of the 2-1 combo, while Randall's only playing 3 because you want to be able to mulligan it. Looking at the list, for after level 1, for the most part, you guys are running basically the same cards. Like for example, Osiel level 2, he's running 1 of the Card Titan and 1 Reiner. Reiner being a big beater that can also help another lane become big when he gets a reverse, while Randall's more opting for 2 copies of the Card Titan just to get that guaranteed hard removal against the problematic early plays. So I want to give you guys 2 questions here. So the first question, well, I guess is to Osiel and Randall about the Mikasa counter. So Randall's including 1 Mikasa counter as a free fetch backup, but then Osiel chose not to run that. So what is your reasoning for not running that?
Because the deck doesn't really prioritize holding the board, the counter did not feel very included, especially for paying 3 stock to refresh the deck. It seemed too costed. So especially because probably Randall feels a little bit more comfortable playing that cost because he runs the order, so he has the extra stock generation, whereas I do not. So I'm running a little bit leaner on stock. But yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then the second question I have, and I'm sure people looking at this list might have as well. So you guys are both running the level 3 Armin from set 1, who gives front 2k in hexproof and his hexproof himself, alongside a heavy line of, or a good amount of like the early plays that you guys can very easily early summon off of the 4 more condition. So my question is, a lot of people like to run the 2-1 Armin that changes into the 3-2, but I do see that both of the lists do not include that card. So can you guys tell me about why you guys don't include that card?
Yeah, so like the first reason is mostly just because both the level 3 Armin and the level 2 Armin are non-Eldian trait characters, so they're misses on Beast Titan. You can't search them off Zeke. It's very hard to have access to. If you wanted to utilize the changer, you would not only need to have the 2-1 changer, but also the 3-2 in your hand, neither of which are searchable off combo or grabbable off Beast Titan. So it's kind of just a huge chore to try to grab those cards. And also, just putting them on the board, it actually just like turns off certain cards in your deck. Like you would not be able to like resolve like a Zeke combo at level 2, which is something that definitely comes up. Like if you can get cards at level 2, you get more cards.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, because like the Zeke needs 4 more Eldian to early play, but he also needs 4 more Eldian to resolve his climax combo. And he can only search Eldian. So Armin being off trade on the 2-1, I feel like is a really big issue, right?
Yeah, like, he's basically not runnable in the pants level 1 variant, where you could probably run it in the door level 1 Mikasa.
Yeah, but then at that level 3, you still do want the hexproof because, like you mentioned, there are so many anti your board things on the defense. So, all right. Anything else in particular about the deck list? I think we covered most of it.
I can take a quick sec to talk about some differences from one of our other friends, Hung, who also piloted this snapper deck, the Pants Choice line. So specifically in his level 1 line, he decided not to go with the 1-0 Colossal Titan. Like he didn't run any copies of it at all. And so the idea behind this card is it can serve as both a like backup level 1 combo, because so he's a 7k on offense, and then when he reverses an opponent with any climax, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's level 1 or higher, you add it to your hand. So it can be a pseudo level 1 climax combo. It's good for situations where your actual level 2 combo might not be set up properly, but you still want to like push damage. But also, I just really like having this as a secondary attacker when I don't need the other level ones like the Peak or the Connie, because the fact that the Zeke is basically just a one-man climax combo, like you don't need to field multiple copies of it at the same time, it just opens up the other 2 lanes for you to put other things, and I felt like this was a really good card to include for the high offensive power and potential to like grab more cards. But I can see why you would potentially want to not run the Colossal Titan in favor of just running like more consistent options for like a specific goal. Because this card doesn't actually accomplish anything for like counterplay. It just kind of raises your floor a bit. In just general matchups, right?
Honestly, even when you do not plus off the ability on reverse top check, I really enjoy just knowing my trigger just for the next attack, especially. So like generally, I would like to save him to be first or second, just to know like whether I should be siding or fronting.
Yeah, like typically you want to be like attacking with the Zeke last anyways, because he has to sack the climax for the climax combo, and so if you sack it early, then like, you lose the power in the soul.
So the attack order kind of just like solves itself, because it's not only better to attack with the Colossal Titan first, but also better to attack with the Zeke last. So
Okay, but to be fair, a lot of like there was like very significant amount of my games where I would purposely attack with the Zeke climax combo, like either first or second, just to manipulate soul, which I thought was like pretty powerful, or to get a really good refresh to refresh all the climaxes.
Yeah, there's definitely some like nuance, but like general situation, you want to attack with the Zeke last, and then in particular with the Ardor, there's some really nice ordering here where like if you put the Ardor blind stock on the Zeke, you reverse the battle opponent, and then you blind stock, and then at the end of the attack you resolve the combo, sack the climax, and then when you search your deck you can actually verify if you blind stock the climax or not.
All right, so after going over the deck lists, tell me a bit about the specific matchups you guys were targeting, because you guys were saying that this is a pretty good pick for what you guys think is the current meta, right? So what are your good matchups and what do you not want to face?
Okay, so like what I've been saying is like the god matchup all day is like Quince.
8 standby, right?
Yeah, 8 standby Quince. Especially if they're, for whatever reason, on like the level 0 Ichika that has like the on-death, like Aqua type thing, kind of like Beast Titan. Because then you have Porco as an additional piece of interaction. But basically, the main idea is that the Zeke is able to address the blue Nino, the 1/1. The Connie is able to address either the 1/1 hand encore or the 2/2. He just gets up to like 8/5, 9k with climax at level 1, which is more than enough to contest the 2/2, even if brought out by standby combo, because that's only 8k. And then you have just like so like I don't know how much you utilize this just as a healer, but I more use this as like a removal tool.
Basically, like how my matches were going, I would only look to grab the Aaron if I was in a favorable, if I just had excess resources, and I'm just like, well, I don't really have anything to do. Like if I'm already in a damage lead, then I just want to increase my damage lead. So like him being a former other early play heal is like very easy condition to make, and then also him just having the extra ability of being able to hard remove cards with like with the stock ability. It just was really nice. It was really nice, but it wasn't too impactful throughout the day. Just because again, I don't really play for the board. It was like, but it's like definitely I don't see a world where I would ever cut this for anything else.
Yeah, I mean like the early play condition is really easy, and then the stock kick is just cherry on the top. It's just so useful a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. So like what other matchups are good? So like I was saying throughout the day that I think Kanata Marine is another pretty good matchup for this deck, or things like Sora as well. Basically anything that has like high impact early plays where like if you are able to remove them from the board with things like the Card Titan, they just like fall apart. So if you run into a deck like that, you want to be looking out for the Card Titans. Those are like the most important pieces of interaction.
The anti-change is relevant throughout like every matchup because like most decks will be running early plays of some sort, early play healers or just like early play like combo wombo.
Yeah, so like 8 standby Quince and Kanata Marine are like the two biggest targets, right?
Yeah.
All right, and then what kind of decks would you like not like to face?
Itself. So like the really weird thing about playing the mirror with this deck is that like this happened between me and Hung on Friday when we played BSO. So basically we both had like a Beast Titan and a Porco in our hand, and we're just like, I don't want to be the first one to like put these on the board. So like he clocked and drew 2 and then like looked at them in his hand and then he passed. And then I passed, and then like it
became a game of chicken, right?
Yeah, and then the other game of chicken is like the player that hits 1 first and can successfully resolve their Zeke combo, they can get the level 1 anti-change counter, and then that can completely screw up the opponent's Zeke.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to like side a bunch of lanes or like side with the Zeke at the very least.
Yeah, so like one line that I had to go for in one of my games against Hung and on Friday's tournament was I sided with the Zeke to play around the counter because he only had one waiting room.
Yeah.
And I know he runs two. And then I sacked the climax for the combo, even though the other two lanes wouldn't be getting the soul. And then on a later attack, I used the John to pop the 0 that the Zeke sided, so I still cleared his board. So that was pretty funny. But honestly, the mirror is kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's very like if you mess up, your opponent could just blow you out. Is the problem? 'Cause they, like you know what their tools are, and they're just meant to just like make sure you have no fun. Like there were like plenty of times in today's tournament where I had to side with Zeke because I knew they had some sort of a memory kick counter or anti-change counter. So I'm just like to play around that I have to side or I have to tech here first to make sure that I can play around those profiles.
Yeah, with that 4 more condition, right?
Yeah. So obviously like this deck idea was like fairly recent. Like I think I came up with it like probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's pretty fresh. I haven't had a chance to test against like a whole bunch of decks yet. I feel like in theory I would probably not have too great a time against like dual laner or like because I feel like you really have to be able to stick a lot of damage fast, otherwise it kind of gets into a bit of a uncomfortable situation. What's really nice though is that a lot of the level 1 line, if they aren't able to get their counter in their hand, like literally the entire level 1 line can test Chifuyu. And it's like no counter, all right, free.
Yeah. But then if they get their stuff going and you get hit to level 3, you don't have a stock swap and you're just kind of hoping that the Iron Titan sticks. And that may be kind of a coin flip there, right?
Like definitely I was especially worryful of Tokyo Revengers, because like depending on what variant they're on, like whether or not they summon Potions, because like Potion just establishes a ginormous board and it's like
Potion is annoying too. I would definitely just like because like one really nice thing about the Zeke is that just because he's relatively big defensively, you can keep him around, like try to go for like second turn of combo maybe, and then when your opponent is playing some deck with like really high offense and they just like blow your board away and it's just like, oh, all right, what am I doing now?
Especially if they can get to a very hyper compressed state, it's just like, well, if they stop taking damage, we're looking a little bit.
You gotta get some like lucky Iron Titan. For sure.
Or just like again, one of the other reasons I wanted to bring the deck was just because I was really a fan of like the Pan Trigger being able to trigger it, then get a climax and just be able to slam soul if like your opponent is just out. So it's just like having the extra like soul rush potential.
Yeah, compared to like the door choice, right? Where like if you trigger either climax, you do get the character back, but you don't get the extra soul potential push.
Another big difference I think between this build and the Mikasa into Iron Titan build is that I feel like this build is a lot more resilient when hit to early 2 because of the nature of the climax combo, because it just pulls 2 clean cards guaranteed out of your deck compared to like, let's say you got hit to like an early 2 in like the Mikasa deck and then you play Mikasa combos and you're just like, I wonder what I'm about to mill, climax, and then it's just like you feel like awful, right?
There was a lot of times where I was just like, I took a very big pocket of damage and I'm just like, okay, calm down, we still have cancels in here, do not touch the deck,
and
attack 3 times and just go. So that's like, that's really a very cozy situation for Zeke, and that's why it makes him one of the reasons to play Zeke.
All right. I think that about does it. Any last minute short wraps up, any shout outs or anything?
Shout outs to the Tressa's Collectibles channel. You guys are already here watching this, but
And I do appreciate anything Osiel?
No. I'm actually thankful for Randall for believing in the deck, for me to get a second look. I was like, man, where should I bring?
This is honestly like just like assuming you run into the right decks. This is like the perfect time for Zeke, I think.
Yeah. But great record on Osiel's part of X1, but unfortunately the 9th bubble. Bubble you can't. You played your best, Weiss Schwarz. I do appreciate you guys sharing with us your deep insights into this Pan's Choice AOT list that really tries to target the current meta. And then we'll have more content for you guys coming up, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time. This has been Mike, Randall, Shizukatz, and special guest Osiel, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.